I think I'm a special one.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
All right, guys. Episode 25. What's up?
What's up? Euro preview. Getting ready for the Euros.
So if you're watching this, we got a random guest up in the top left corner. No picture. What's up, Mike?
Good to see you, Catalana brothers. Always excited to be here.
I wish I could say the same, but I don't see you.
Sorry, in the middle of abundance of different meetings right now, so didn't want to embarrass the pod and myself and my good friends. So discretion is advised, and the next time you have me on the pod, I'll make up for it by wearing two different jerseys. I'll switch halfway through the duration. You'll be like, oh wow, Mike has another jersey on. So that's how I'll atone for my my errors today.
The next time you're on the pod, we're just going to change it to On the Half Turn with Andrew, Chad, and sometimes Mike.
I'm just happy
an associate
with your busy schedule.
Yeah.
The schedule.
Times I'll call Mike, it goes straight to voicemail. I can never get a hold of this guy.
Andrew and I have been playing phone tag since we graduated from college.
All right. So Mike's not wearing a soccer jersey. Even if he was, you wouldn't be able to see it. Chad, what are you wearing?
Wearing an old Dortmund Pulisic jersey, 22 on the back.
It's crazy because you definitely have more soccer kits than me, but you just rewear the same like 4 every episode.
Yeah, you would think I'd wear like an international one.
Yeah.
Something for this.
I actually looked in my closet. The only international kits I have are I have a couple US, a Mexico, a Colombia, and that's it. But no European team. So I wore this DC United Wayne Rooney jersey. So it's not a jersey; it's just a T-shirt.
European player on the back.
Yeah. I think I wore it on here before, but me and some of my boys went down to Audi Field to watch DC United play, and it was like the first couple of games where Rooney was there. And like the Rooney hype was just going crazy. And we just thought it'd all be fun if we all just bought Wayne Rooney jerseys. So that's why I have this.
Wow. Joke's on you guys.
Yeah. Well, this thing's like vintage now. So, yeah, this episode, normally we'd start with like a lot of banter with Mike or talk about what we're doing. But like we figured we'd get kind of right into the Euros here. Try to make it like short, kind of concise, a lot of good talking points. So Euros are coming up. We're recording this on right? Today's Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow they start with the Italy match. So this is coming out right as everything's starting. I honestly don't even know where it's being hosted.
It's being hosted.
So it's multiple cities across multiple European cities.
What is there a main one?
Well, I mean, there's several because you have because tomorrow that first game's in Rome, and then and so on. There'll be some cities that they go into as well, like with other matchups pertaining to like a certain European region. So that was like the big ploy of the original thing for Euro 2020, because I think like capping off like the milestone it was as a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the original plan. Which of course is why I think it was so quickly scrapped like last summer with COVID, is because that, internation travel is always going to be really tricky. So I think they've gotten the handle on it now too.
Yeah, I think I'm sure like every once in a while, that's a cool idea to have it in different locations. But to me, if it was all in one country, especially like one small country, like that seems cooler to me. You get more of that culture,
Yeah, and it definitely raises awareness of one country specifically as opposed to, broadly a few nations.
Yeah. So we're going to go kind of group by group. And then at the end, maybe we'll make like on the half turn bracket, or we'll just kind of pick our group winners and see who gets the semifinals. So Mike, you want to start us off with Group A? Just kind of list the teams, and then a few talking points. And then me and Chad will kind of hop in if we think we got something to add.
Yeah, of course. So, starting off with Group A, we have the Italians, Switzerland, Turkey, and then Wales. I think there's a lot to be said about this group, considering it's on paper, it's not necessarily a group of death. But I think more broadly, you've got a lot of individual players within this group that have had successful years at the club level. Starting off with Italy specifically, this is a team that has been known, throughout probably the last decade and more historically for being a very defensively robust, dominate the transition and set pieces and ultimately manage the game kind of team. I think what you're seeing now with this team is a more rounded out, attractive style playing group with midfielders like Nicolo Barella and Manuel Locatelli, who have had very, very positive years at the club level. So I think now what we're going to be seeing from this team is a good combination of both of youth and veteran leadership in the form of Giorgio Chiellini and Leonardo Bonucci at the back. This is a team that I think no matter what their rankings are in FIFA, always seems to have a positive showing when it comes to the tournaments on the big stage, whether it be the Euros or the World Cup. Oh my God, that poster's coming undone.
Yeah, I can't have it over. It just keeps falling down. Keep going, Mike.
Yeah, so on that point alone, I think there's a lot to be said about this team. I think there's a reason why newly appointed Roma coach Jose Mourinho has picked this team to go to the semifinals. And I think there's a lot of objective fans that could see that from this team too. And of course, in a manager like Roberto Mancini, this is a guy that has not just great experience managing quality players at the club level with, clubs like Inter and Man City, but also, being a great player in the national team and at the club level for clubs like Lazio and Sampdoria. I think there's a lot to be said about this team. Moving on to a team like the Swiss, of course, we know historically a lot of players based in the various teams, within the Bundesliga, like Jan Sommer, Ricardo Rodriguez, who had a decent spell at Milan this past year. Or Torino, that is, rather, my apologies. So I think a lot of, this is a solid team. I think this is a team that we always expect to just be good enough to get into the knockout round. And that's usually where they tend to run out of steam.
That's exactly like what I thought of them.
Yeah, I think that's what we've kind of grown to be accustomed to with the Swiss, a team that you're always delighted to see get to the knockout round. But I think some of these bigger teams probably are licking at their chops when the draw comes through the knockout rounds, hoping they get a team. I always equate Swiss to the Porto of the European Championships. You pull for them when they reach the qualification stage, but anything after that, you're like,
yeah, it's like I don't want to see this team anymore. You know what I mean? Like they're just
Exactly. So, and I think that brings an interesting point to the rest of this group, because with teams like Turkey and Wales that maybe have a player or two that can do something individually brilliant, one of the big things I would say, especially as a talking point, is especially with this Turkish team with two young center backs like Mary Demirel and Kagler Soyuncu, who plays for Leicester City. I think we're kind of on the precipice of an exciting, center back partnership that could be pretty dominant for the next couple of years, not just within that national team, but within their clubs. So I think if there's a chance that the Turkish go through, I think it would be, largely down to those two.
It's a good point. I love Soyuncu. He's been one of my favorite center backs for the past 2 years.
Right. And I think a bigger talking point as well is Bernick Guillemez. I think this is a guy that could be a dark horse to be up there with the top scorers. Just fired Lille into the Liga Championship as a 35-year-old. This is a player that has been around for a long time, and he's always seemed to done it no matter where he is. So I think he's definitely someone to look out for as far as who will be banging in the goals in this group from game to game. So definitely someone I would say to watch more closely.
What was that? What was his name again?
It's Bernick Guillemez. So more importantly, this year he was the top scorer for Lille. He played a pretty big role in them kind of wrestling away that Liga title from PSG. So I think he'll be someone that'll be leading the line for Turkey and someone that'll definitely be a handful for the other three teams in this group defensively. And then, of course, that kind of brings us to Wales. And I mean, this is a team we've seen kind of improve on the international stage for a few years now with guys like Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, getting more into the prime of their careers. This is a team as well that has a lot of players that are also pretty prevalent in the league championship, as well as the Premier League. A team that's probably going to look to be defensively organized and manage the game as best they can. But I think, interestingly enough, if you want my further opinion on this group, I think this group is going to be placed the way it exactly reads. So Italy taking out that top spot, with Switzerland and Turkey finishing second and third respectively, and then Wales finishing in that final place.
Really? So to me, from just from a lot of times in the tournament, people are quick to be like, oh, that team's a dark horse, so they just put them in. It's like it sounds like Turkey has like the makings of a dark horse, but you don't think they'll be able to get up to that second spot?
I don't think they're as complete as some of the other dark horses, and there's actually kind of a dark horse I'm going to point to in our next group. But I think there's definitely something to be exciting about with this young center back partnership in Soyuncu and Demiral. But I think still a lot of holes in this squad with some young and up and coming players. But being it is probably going to be their first actual tournament, I think it'll be a big test for them, because I think we also have to account for what's been a long and grueling year at the club level in a season like no other. How will people take that into the European Championships right now? So
good point.
We'll see if it plays out that way.
When you're talking about, so like you're part Italian or whatever the story is, you're pretty much Italy fan, right? You're Italian.
Father was born in Italy, but if the United States were playing this European Championships, who I'd be rooting for. But yeah, definitely have an affinity for the Italian national team when they do play. But yeah, try to be as objective as possible in this Group A for you guys.
Well, you're the expert. That's why we gave you Group A. So is this like, I don't, from the outside, I know a lot of the Italian players or whatever. Is this like Italy? Like, is this Italian team good enough to win the Euros? Like, not just on a game by game basis, but like, how does it stack up with Italian teams of the past, or what other people perceive as the strongest teams in Europe?
I think what people are getting excited of within this Italy team is that this team can have sustained periods of possession and break teams down that on paper are, look tactically stronger than they are. This is a team that, several months ago went, to the Netherlands in Amsterdam and dominated them, kind of beating the Dutch at their own game. This is a team now that, they play a 4-3-3 usually. Their midfield rotations really look to break lines of pressure, and they really look to play on the front foot. So this mixture of kind of these old veterans at the back, combined with some of these younger players in central and wide areas, I think is a nice mixture. And on top of the fact, the strength of this Italy team has always been the collective. So I think this enthusiasm about the national team that you've kind of seen within the camp, and with a manager like Roberto Mancini, who's on the younger side of things and probably likes to play more of a progressive style while still maintaining like some of the values of Italy, like, defensive solidarity and togetherness. I think that's like a nice recipe going forward. And I think there's something to be said about, a guy like Jose Mourinho, who's spent quite a bit of time in Serie A and, has been one of the more successful managers of the last 20 years, saying that this is a team that can go to the semifinals as well. I think a lot of people would largely agree with that too.
Nice. Yeah, even from, my perspective, which is just like watch Serie A every now and then. Like I know a lot of the players, like this team seems like it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Like the midfield you mentioned, like Barella, Locatelli, Verratti, like all of those guys seem like they're like ball players. Like they're gonna, it sounds like they're gonna play like a good style, get their wing backs up in the attack too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've talked about, I think the three of us just in random conversations, that sometimes it can be a limitation and sometimes it can be a strength for a team that you're not sure where the goals are going to come from, which I think with this Italy team in recent years, there's not like a prolific number 9 that is just going to kill off every chance. I think that's a strength in this team, that the opposition will have to understand that they don't know where the goals are going to come from. And I think that means that teams are going to have to be open-minded to, not rule out any kind of threat on the attack from this team. Yeah. So I think that's something to look to as well.
That's good stuff. I'm pretty sure I have Chiesa as I don't know if I have him as a reserve or something on my Euro fantasy team. So hopefully it comes.
Yeah,
through.
exactly. So guys like, Federico Chiesa, of course, Lorenzo Insigne, guys that largely had, a successful club season as individuals. I think they'll go ahead and they'll take that momentum into the tournament for sure.
Cool. So we're going Italy, Switzerland, 1 and 2. Do you think Turkey finishes third? Do you think they're a good enough third place to go through?
I think so. I think largely it'll depend to, some of those other markers like points and goal differential. And maybe that's where we talk about a guy like Bernick Guillemez. He can probably make the difference there too.
Sweet. So you think, 3 will advance. All right, cool. You want to go to Group B, Mike?
Okay, yeah, let's start.
Wait, Chad, you got anything on Group A? You've been looking forward to this Euro for a while now, man. You've been prepared.
No. Just the only thing, I think Chiesa is going to be really good. I was the one that told you to pick Chiesa in your fantasy team. So that's a player who I think is going to be really good. And I think he's going to be the best player for Italy.
Bold.
I love that statement. We'll see if that comes true tomorrow. Yeah, so, going to Group B, this is another interesting group where we have probably a known quantity in Belgium and then 3 probably more largely unknowns in Denmark, Finland, and Russia. I think that, this Belgium team has a lot of individual players that are coming off really positive seasons for their club. More specifically, Romelu Lukaku for Inter, Kevin De Bruyne. Hopefully he's 100% going for the rest of the tournament from Man City. I think, there's a lot of interesting pieces here. This is a team that we expected a little more from at the World Cup. And you know what? There's a lot of pieces. I think there's a lot to be said in comparison of this Belgian team to this France team. Some players that are individually brilliant that but are they going to be match winners? I think it's something to be said that, Eden Hazard had a pretty lackluster season for Real Madrid. Guys like Dries Mertens probably in the twilight of their career. So, I think it's going to be really, really interesting. Haven't done a whole lot of depth into this Belgium team just because of some of the season that some of these guys have had. But of course, for a guy like Romelu Lukaku, who thrives on service, I think that one of the bigger questions is going to be, are the right players, in that front 4, 5, or 6 going to be able to provide him with what he needs, other than Kevin De Bruyne. So I think that'll be a good talking point.
Lukaku seems to me like a pretty obvious Golden Boot candidate, other than he probably won't take free kicks or penalties, but like from the run of play, you could just see him getting a goal like just about every game. The team just looks so strong. Like you were saying, you haven't like dove too deep into it, but like it's because we already kind of know all of the players. Like a lot of these lower European teams, it's like they have a player or two and they have to be the focal point of that team. But like this Belgium team is so good that like no one really needs to be the focal point. Like you could mix guys up and mix them around and stuff. I do think
exactly.
One thing that was like kind of concerning, everything I'm reading is saying that Axel Witsel is going to be starting, which like, didn't he tear his Achilles like early in the season for Dortmund?
I thought he did as well. It seems like he's made the team. We know guys like, I think, is it, who is it? There's been a few questions. I think one of a player that you got to be happy for that's made this team is Leandro Trossard, who plays for Brighton in the Premier League.
Oh, wow.
He's someone that I think has really worked his way kind of out of the shadows and had really humble beginnings. So I think one of those stories we kind of have to like tip our hats to. But I think look for a guy as well like Yuri Tillemans, who had a really positive season for Leicester the whole year. I think hopefully he'll carry that momentum forward. And then I think there's going to be talking points like other role players in this squad, like your Yannick Carrassos and your Timothy Castans, he's also a Leicester player. Where these guys shape up and what their contribution level is. So, yeah, a lot of points there. I think this team has I think we're all pretty much in agreement that this team will probably be group winners, and I think we consider it a shock if they weren't. I think our question with Belgium now is, are they going to be a team that that gets up for it come the knockout stages? I'm still not convinced.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like just going through the team, like I love Tielemans, but like the defense is like pretty old, like Alderweireld, Vertonghen. Like I don't know who else they're going to play back there. This to me sounds like a team that dominates in the group stage and then just doesn't live up to expectations like come the knockout rounds. Unless that front 3 or 4 is just absolutely, destroying teams.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we can definitely attribute and Chad, I mean, let me know if you want to add on to this, but this aging group of defenders in this squad, like you said, Andrew, Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen, even Thomas Vermaelen. I mean, you're talking about a player that's called up for a prominent national team and he's playing for Vissel Kobe in Japan. It's not something we normally see. So I think it's a lot to be said about who's available for this team and who's gonna go ahead and step up. Especially these guys that at their tender years of age, they're known to pick up knocks in games and may not be able to go to the full tournament. So yeah, it'll be interesting. From there, I think there's a point, and I think Chad, you and I were even talking about this at one point. I don't think we have a clue of what is Michy Batshuayi to whatever league he plays. And I mean, he's had these loan spells now. He had that that money move to Chelsea, and he's kind of bounced around now with kind of like this journeyman status on his back. Like what are your thoughts? What is like the next step for him? On in this national team and going forward too.
You're right. Like, doesn't he play at Palace still?
Yeah, he's still on the books at Palace, who, and I don't want to get in the weeds here, but they're searching for another manager. Does that buy up his future? And with a guy like Lukaku that just had such a stellar club season, it almost seems like his time, having a prominent role in this national team might be coming to an end before he knows it.
I don't know. I feel like he could be good for the national team, leaving his club situation aside. You've seen what Belgium has up front at the number 9. They've had Benteke, Lukaku, Batshuayi, like very similar players, all 3 of them. So maybe Lukaku picks up a knock or something. Batshuayi can come in, play the role. We saw in throwing it back 2014 World Cup, didn't Lukaku start, and then Benteke came in. It was like against the United States, and it was like a similar play style between those 2.
You're really throwing it back, man.
Hey, that's just what came to mind.
Dude, I always liked Batshuayi. I always thought he was really good.
Yeah, I think so. I guess overall with this Belgium team, the questions we got to ask, how prepared are they for the knockout rounds, and how prepared are some of these reserve players that probably aren't in the starting 11? How prepared are they to step into a game and, change it on its head? But I mean, yeah, going forward, I think one of the teams that actually is a less obvious one that I'm more excited to talk about is Denmark.
Yeah.
This is a team that in recent years has really not only climbed the FIFA rankings, but has also been much more of a consistent performer in qualifying. I mean, their leadership at the back just speaks volumes with the guys like Kasper Schmeichel, whose father actually won the European Championships back in 1992 for Denmark, which is like one of the the fairy tale results in international soccer. So I think with him at the back there, and he's been such a stellar performer now for the Danish national team and for Leicester City in the last several years, I think he could be a standout performer for them again. And someone that we'll look forward to, that they'll surely rely on too, to, not only lead the team with his presence, but also, with his ability to make saves and change matches that way. Kind of going through the spine of the rest of this team in defense, Simon Kjær had a really strong year for Milan, getting them back into the Champions League. And then guys, of course, like Christian Eriksen having a strong year winning Serie A with Inter. And then, of course, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who we've known to be much more of a guy that puts in the hard yards and covers a lot of ground and, breaks up plays. I think a lot of people would argue that he was, behind Harry Kane and Son Heung-min, Spurs Player of the Year. So I think there's some good little pieces in this Danish team, along with, Thomas Delaney from Borussia Dortmund. So I think there'll be a nice they'll be a nice piece of this group, and I think they'll be thrilled with hopefully looking to compete for that one of those knockout spots.
Yeah,
I think again.
Sorry, Mike. A lot of times when I look at some of these teams, it's like I look at I'll watch a lot of club soccer in Europe, and I don't necessarily know who's like which nationality somebody is, right? And then like when I see them together in the national team and I just see a bunch of players, I'm like, oh, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. He's pretty good. Then before you know it, you have a team of guys who you know are pretty good. And like that's what this Denmark team is. Like there's 5 or 6 guys. You're like, yeah, he's good. I watch him all the time. He's good. Like this team seems like a dark horse to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Chad, I think you got to talk about, especially with your Borussia Dortmund shirt on, right? I mean, Thomas Delaney just won the German Cup this year with Dortmund. I mean, as a guy that, has won things at a certain level, isn't there something to be said about bringing like trophies and that winning mentality to a national team where guys probably haven't had that success at the club level? It's like infectious at some point, right?
Definitely. I mean, I don't know if we're going to touch on this later, talk about our dark horses, but a little sneak peek. I think Denmark's my dark horse. I mean, if you look across the board, all players playing really top 5 leagues. I mean, people look at the U.S. national team, be like, he plays here, he plays there, he plays there. Look at the Denmark team. Like, I feel like if you're looking at the leagues where they play, they're stacked.
Chad knows all about winning trophies and being a culture builder.
2 stars.
Thomas Delaney, he's American, man. He could have won a CONCACAF Nations League.
American.
Wow. That's controversial on this podcast.
I don't know what the connection is. I just know somehow he's like American. Kind of like Giuseppe Rossi.
Yeah, of course. He's the Giuseppe Rossi of Denmark.
Danish Giuseppe. So we're all in agreement that Denmark's probably finishing second here, and they're, something to be reckoned with in the knockout rounds.
Yeah, I think, as we kind of look more down this list, I think a team that could really edge Denmark out for that second spot would, of course, be the Russians. We know they have a little bit of pedigree in this competition. And, of course, they had a decently successful, World Cup showing back in 2018. I would say the thing about this Russian team is there's a lot of aging stars within it. And this is a Russia team that what you're going to get, and that there's not a lot of goals in this team. I mean, they're largely drawing games 1-1 or winning games 1-0 throughout qualifying and throughout their warm-up games. This is a team that in the qualifiers narrowly beat Slovenia and Slovakia 2-1 apiece. And even had a horrible Nations League showing back in November against Serbia, losing to them 5-0. So, I think there's a lot to be said that maybe that decent run from them in the World Cup in 2018 was probably largely down to their host status. So it's definitely not a place that I would put my name behind. But we know this is obviously a big federation. This is a team that certainly has some tournament pedigree to it. But yeah, it looks like, at least from results, performance, and players that are currently available, that it's not really a team that I think a lot of people would be pulling for necessarily.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a team I would root for. They have the big, I forget his name, the 6'6" guy. He plays up top. Yeah.
I think it's Juba.
I don't know his name, but yeah, the Russians seem big, kind of boring, tough to break down.
Yeah, I think the one team that people would be more excited to talk about is Finland and their frontman Timo Pukki, who has been scoring goals for fun ever since he arrived at Norwich City.
Love it. Did he have a good season this season?
Yeah, he largely played a role in the reason why Norwich is going right back up to the Premier League after spending one season in the Championship. So, another guy in probably like a Bernick Guillemez type situation. Is he going to, score a few goals here and there? We'll see. But I think all in all, the Finnish are just happy to be in this tournament. They'll take games as they come, and I think they'll largely just enjoy the experience. So if we had to round it out in this group, I'd probably say you got the Belgians finishing in first, with the Danish finishing behind them in second. And I'm going to go ahead and say, you know, Finland has a little bit of a high note in here and finishes third, and we're going to put the Russians in fourth at the bottom.
Fourth.
I like it.
You see Finland as a team that could make it through as a third place, or no?
I see Finland as a team that that probably will not be. I think they'll just be happy to pick up some points here and there, and I think they'll definitely just work hard as a group.
They're here for a good time, not a long time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'll be rooting for the finish.
What'd you say?
That's what they're called. So I'll be rooting for them. The finish.
The finish, yeah. Nice. How long you been waiting to say that joke, bro?
Since the groups came out.
All right, cool. So Group A, we have Italy, Switzerland, and probably Turkey moving on. Group B, we have Belgium and Denmark moving on. We all agree Denmark can make some noise. Have some questions about Belgium in there. All right, cool. So I'll kind of take the lead on Group C. So my approach with a lot of this stuff was like I said earlier, a lot of these European teams, I don't really know much about them until I start to look at their roster and I see where they play. And I'm like, oh, I know that guy. Oh, this guy's good. That guy's good. So what I'll do is I just we'll just go on like Google News or something and try and read a lot of what the papers are saying, like previews, and then like try to like combine them a little bit and see if there's like a trend. And if multiple people are saying it, then it's probably how that team's going to play. So the Netherlands, so we'll start. Group C's Netherlands, Austria, Ukraine, and North Macedonia. Netherlands, obviously, like the big team in the group. Didn't make 2018 World Cup, so like it always seems like they're producing so many good players. It's just sometimes it doesn't equal national team success. One of the big storylines here is Frank de Boer, their manager. It's like on the hot seat like all of the time. He was the manager at Atlanta United. Got canned. To me, it seems like people don't really like him as the manager of the Dutch either. So I don't really know what the deal is there. Apparently, they're going to play somewhat of a 4-2-3-1, maybe with Wijnaldum and Frankie de Jong as the double pivot there. Talks about Luke de Jong playing up top, and from what I hear, he's slow, immobile, big guy, hold up play kind of thing. And, one of the things I want to look for is, where are they going to play Memphis Depay? Because everyone knows of him as the flop from Manchester United a few years ago. But like since he's moved on, he's been like really good. We saw it in the Champions League in 2020. He's like a legit, like almost world-class player. Like he's getting rumored to Barcelona and everything. So I think he fits there. So I kind of want to see where he plays. But yeah, that's the obvious team in this group that, I think they'll top the group. You guys have anything to add on Netherlands?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting pieces here is how much is this national team going to miss Virgil Van Dijk? This is a guy that we associate with a lot of Liverpool's success in recent years, and I'm just curious to see how it's going to be. With him not being part of a major tournament, and who's going to step up and maybe fill the pieces. I know, Matthias de Ligt had a great year for Juventus. Mm-hmm. It'll be curious to see if he carries that momentum into the tournament too, and also who will partner him. There's guys like Stefan de Vrij and Joel Veltman. Mm-hmm. And how that will go. But I think, like you touched on something really important, Andrew. I think this is really, at this point in his career, the only job that Frank de Boer could take some satisfaction in having. I mean, this is a guy that was literally at Crystal Palace for a matter of months. I think the same case with Inter. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be kind of sink or swim for this team again. Like, I think we've asked a lot of questions of these guys, and especially with a guy like Luke de Jong, back to goal. It seems like he's going to be, I think center back partnerships will be excited to play against him largely through the run of play.
That's what, as a center back, when I play center back, I'd rather play against a big guy like that. But yeah, I mean, there's no excuses for not getting out of this group, I would think. And one thing you mentioned with the Lit is I feel like center backs, a lot of time it's hard to judge them because a lot of times center backs don't develop till they're a little bit older. like just in general, when you look at like the top center backs, they're normally a little bit older. Even like Van Dijk really broke out as a world-class player by the time he's 26, 27. So the fact that the Lit did that and captained the Champions League semifinal team, moved Juventus, and like you would know, Mike, he had a rough start there. And from all I hear, he's had like a really good season this season. So maybe this is like coming out party as like he's got rid of that, that bad start, and he's like the real deal.
I think that's the best way you could say it.
All right, so next up is Austria. So I don't know. I just look at their team, and they have a few guys that like I think everybody would know: David Alaba, Marcel Sabitzer, and Arnautovic. And other than that, I don't recognize a lot of the guys. I don't know much about them, but I just look at that team and I'm like, yeah, I know them. I read 3 or 4 articles talking about how they want to be a possession-based team. I'm guessing David Alaba is going to play as one of the outside backs, and apparently they use their outside backs a lot in attack. They'll either get up wide or tuck inside, something like that. Obviously, Sabitzer was crazy, this season. Last season, he's done really well. And most of their team is Bundesliga players. If you just go on their roster, just start searching them up, they're almost all Bundesliga players. So they're probably that kind of possession-based, gang and press type team when you lose the ball, because that's the normal style in Germany.
Yeah, that's a good point, Andrew. And I mean, also, this is an Austria team that historically has never gotten out of the group stage at a European championship before. Mm-hmm. And they were pretty cruelly knocked out of that as well last in 2016. So I think, they'll definitely, when you look at this group, they'll definitely be looking at it and saying, man, we should be really looking to go ahead and push for that second spot and get out of this group and kind of break that duck of never going through before.
Yep.
Wait, Andrew. A player that I've been hearing about a lot. His name's Sasha Kala, and then JDZIC. I can't pronounce it, but 6'7", striker, banged in a lot of goals for Stuttgart. I guess he's a similar player to De Jong. Maybe see a lot of set piece goals in this group.
Okay, maybe get a little ugly with it and just start.
Yeah, so I'm saying that's a player that
player to watch. Yeah,
for Austria.
Cool. Can't say I have a lot to say about the Austrians. Next up, Ukraine. So this is a team, just looking at it, seems like they have the making of a dark horse. They're managed by, I'm going to get this wrong, Shinchenko. He was big when I was little, like when I first started getting into soccer. I just remember he was like one of the better strikers in the world at the time, really good on FIFA. And there was this one kid that like I played soccer with when I was little, and he would just wear a Shinchenko jersey every practice. Like Tuesday practice, he wore it. Thursday practice, he wore it. So that was the first thing I thought of when I heard that he was the manager. I just remember this dude wearing his jersey. I think it's cool. Like you have a Ukrainian legend literally leading the team. It'd be like Landon Donovan coaching the men's national team. Or Greg Berhalter. He's a legend too. So some of the guys they have, Yarmolenko, I'm going to get this wrong, but Malinovsky from Atalanta, always play a good style. And then Zinchenko from Manchester City, I'm guessing will play as a central midfielder. So if he has any influence on the team, they'll keep it. They'll try and be like a little methodical. That's what I have on Ukraine. Without too many details about how they play, there's a lot of people that are kind of excited to see them play in this tournament. So seems like a lower end kind of dark horse in this tournament.
I like it.
That could be a team that just, grinds out some games, works hard, might sit back against the bigger teams like the Netherlands. But
there's no other bigger teams, maybe Austria, I guess.
If they were to advance, there's a lot of teams in Europe when they play against like the big giants. That will just try and grind out some games. I think Ukraine is one.
And then round out the group is North Macedonia. It's their first Euro ever. I actually found out the other day, I was listening to a podcast with Vlatko, the women's national team coach. he's Macedonian, so he was pretty excited about them playing. But yeah, I think this is their first ever major tournament, if I read that right. Wasn't a whole lot about him. Alioski from Leeds plays left back for him. I just kind of assumed they would be fourth. Here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah. And of course, Champions League winner with Inter Milan, Goran Pandev leads the line at the ripe old age of, I think I have it written down here. Oh man. Talk about a seasoned veteran at the ripe old age of 37. He'll be 38 on July 27th.
You're saying he won the Champions League in 2010?
He won the Champions League with Inter, whatever year that was. I think it was, 2010 or 2011, that is.
Wow. Yeah, so I'm thinking I don't want to get too cool with it, but I'm thinking Netherlands tops the group and Ukraine comes in second. What do you guys think? You think Austria finishes second?
I would say Austria.
Okay.
But you know what? I think there's something to be said about this group of Ukrainian players. You know, a lot of these guys play, or they're either Dynamo Kiev guys or they're Shakhtar Donetsk guys. So maybe they've got some sort of piece together that might be good for cohesion. But I think I think it's a nice point, Kat.
So maybe maybe we say Austria finishes second, but Ukraine gets in as one of those third place spots, assuming everyone picks up 3 points against North Macedonia. Maybe they get their goal differential up a little bit.
Yeah, I think everyone will be looking at this group with North Macedonia seen as a built-in 3 points. No offense to North Macedonia.
Comes with 3 free points. Nice. So we have the Dutch, then we have Austria, we have Ukraine getting through on third. All right, so Group D. This group is pretty interesting just because it has England. I mean, anything with England is just like super like overanalyzed. Maybe it's just because in the US we watch the Premier League so much, same language, so it's easy to pick up on all the news stories and whatever. But England, Croatia, Scotland, Czech Republic. So pretty interesting that Croatia and England played each other in the World Cup as well. If you're listening to this, you probably already know most, all of the English players, but I think one of the things to look at is in the World Cup, they played like a 3-5-2, and all reports are saying that they'll probably go with a 4-3-3 this Euros. So expect my boy John Stones to be playing in the center of the park, center back. Two guys I really want to see are Mason Mount. He showed up in the Champions League, showed up for club this season, and maybe he just balls out this tournament and is literally just like a world star at this point. A lot of people, a lot of newspapers and stuff are saying they might play with 2 center mids. So maybe it's Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice partnership, something like that. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they have 2 defensive mids in front of their 2 center backs and, let their 4 attacking players just kind of do their thing. And they don't have to worry too much about defending because they'll probably have a lot of the ball anyway.
I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with all the attacking options.
Mm.
I feel like some of the English players might be kind of selfish and want to be the ones to, be the star on the team.
Mm-hmm.
With so many wingers, so many attacking players. And I even think Mason Mount is expected to play as like just a center mid alongside Rice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're really just keep pushing him deeper and deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Kane's obviously going to be he's going to take all the penalties. He's going to he should be scoring a goal like every game at this point if they're winning. So he's another good one for top goal scorer or something like that, or even it's just like a little prop bet every time they play. Kane's likely to score. It stinks if there's so many attacking options and Grealish doesn't get in the team because I would really like for Grealish to start, but a lot of what I'm reading doesn't think he's going to start. That could just be speculation or whatever, but Kyle Walker, I guess, is expected to play right back, even though they could feel the full 11 of really good right backs. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Reece James, they're all on the bench. Chilwell probably playing left back. So big Harry Maguire, center back as well. So that's always interesting. Like anytime England play, it's always pretty interesting. Go to Croatia next. I mean, like I didn't have a whole lot of notes. Like they're just a good team. Like the team will just run through Modric like it did in the World Cup. That Croatia team was really good and Modric was really good. Like that wasn't a World Cup final caliber team. I just think they got kind of lucky that, I don't know, they just had an easy road to the final. So like I would just kind of assume Croatia puts up a good showing here and at least advances to the next round. What do you think? Do you have anything else to say about Croatia?
Yeah, I think now with Mario Mandzukic retiring from the national team a few years ago, following that World Cup, I think, this team lacks a focal point in the attack. And I think that'll probably, cost them from, coming back down to earth a little bit, especially in this tournament. So, the team you'd want and you'd expect to get out of the group stages, but hard to really decipher how much further they'll go past that.
Yeah. And to be honest, Croatia is one of those teams where like I can't really pronounce anybody's name. So like the names just don't stick in my head. And then I watch them or read the name and I'm like, yeah, I know that guy. He's actually like really good. And then so like I'll start watching them and then I'll probably love this team. But then you have Scotland and Czech Republic. I really like the Scotland team. Got Andy Robertson, John McGinn, Billy Gilmore, Kieran Tierney, Scott McTominay. Like all of these guys are just like really good players. So like if there's a team to challenge for that second spot, I think it's Scotland.
And I think the way their schedule is set up as well, playing the Czech Republic in their first game, if they're able to get a positive result from that, I think that could give them a lot of belief early on in this tournament and could set up the group nicely, like when it rounds itself out. Yeah,
that's a good point. I mean, there's an argument to be said, like if you play the Czech Republic last, maybe they're already out of it and they don't try as hard. But, I think you got all that belief to get 3 points and start off on the right foot. Let England and Croatia beat each other up a little bit.
Yeah. And I think on that point too, I mean, we're talking about a team that really, went through the hard way when it came through to qualifying. So this is a team that's built a little bit tougher. I think they're able to suffer for large periods in games and kind of, be patient with their moments, especially to get forward and take their chances. And I mean, just like you said, looking through this team, there's a lot of players with Premier League experience and even coming off successful seasons, whether it be in Scotland or in England itself. So definitely one of the more exciting teams I think we're going to see. This team with some of the players that are playing in it and their form reminds me a lot of that Wales team we saw at the last Euros that went on a decent run. So, hopefully we're going to see more of the same from the Scotland team.
Yeah. And I've been on this podcast before saying Scott McTominay's like just about there for me to consider him like a world-class number 6, I guess you could say. Like, I don't know who's, there's not a whole lot of guys that I would say are definitely better than him at what he does. And he's better than you think with the ball at his feet and passing out of trouble. So,
yeah, I mean, I think along with Scott McTominay, especially like running through kind of the core of that team, you got guys like Liam Cooper, who captains Leeds, and Grant Hanley, who played a big role as well in getting Norwich promoted back up to the Premier League. And then, Kieran Tierney, who had really, he's been a really impactful player for Arsenal when he's been on the field and when he hasn't been injured. So I think there's a lot of good stuff to look throughout this whole team in every position.
Yeah, I like Kieran Tierney as well. And then last, Czech Republic. I just have a couple notes. A lot of people are saying they'll play 2 center mids as like a double pivot. They'll press with their front 4. I don't know if it's like a high press or that's just kind of what they do. And part of that double pivot is Souček from West Ham. Really good season this year. Obviously, West Ham was really good. So that's another one kind of like Northern Macedonia in the other group. I'm just kind of penciling in as last place. But, I mean, I'm sure they have the quality, much more quality than Macedonia on that team to snag a win or a couple draws.
Yeah, this is definitely not like the Czech Republic team of 2006 with guys like Pavel Nedved and Thomas Rosicky. I think Jan Koller, another one to say the least. This is a lot of guys that are really either based out of either based out of the Czech Republic itself or kind of, scattered across Europe. So I think a lot will be going back to, that first game with Scotland. I think will reveal a lot about, this team and, and the Scottish team too.
Yeah. So realistically, I don't know if it actually makes sense, but I'm going to have England and Scotland as my first two, and then Croatia as a third place that goes through. So we're definitely going to need to drop a few third places coming up.
I like those picks, Andrew.
All right. There we go. Scotland's a dark horse. What'd you say, Chad?
You two both were saying that Croatia is like the second team, and you guys both put them third.
I think they're pretty solidly thought of as the second team, but we also both agreed that they're not what they were. A bit of a fluke run in 2018. They're not as strong as you would think. So that's what I'm going with. All right, cool. Let's kind of speed it up a little bit. We got Group D. Chad, you got the next two groups?
Yeah, so I'll take the final two groups.
Let's roll.
Starting with Group E. That is Spain, Poland, Sweden, and Slovakia. Spain obviously coming in as the favorite, minus 300. Coached by Luis Enrique. Big storyline coming into this one. No Real Madrid players at all in the team, which is crazy if you think about it. Real Madrid, biggest club in Spain, having no players on the Spanish national team heading into a major tournament. They expect to play normal formation. They're 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, however you look at it, with De Gea, Alba, Laporte, who actually just switched from France to Spain.
Yeah, what is the rule? It's you have to have under three caps or something.
I know in the past Laporte hasn't played much for Spain. France. So if that's the rule, then he definitely gets the pass.
Yeah.
And then he'll be partnered with I think his name's Paulo Torres, won the Europa League with Villarreal, had a really good year. Marcos Llorente, that utility player. I picked him up in my fantasy squad too because I think he'll be playing anywhere they want him. And then question mark going in is who's going to play that bottom of the pivot, Rodri or Busquets. And then the front three, Dani Olmo, Morata, and Ferran Torres. We've seen what Ferran Torres can do with Man City. Pretty sure he had a hat trick earlier in the season with Man City. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's a really good player on his day. But Morata, Mike, you're a Juventus fan, right?
Of course.
I don't know how you feel about Morata, but I feel like he's only good for Juventus. And he's not even good. He just scores goals occasionally for Juventus.
Yeah, the thing is for a striker and a top striker, you expect a guy that's prolific and selfish in front of goal and is going to take his chances. I think Alvaro Morata is the absolute opposite of that. This guy is a team player. You give him 6 chances in front of goal, he'll maybe have 1. He could have 0. He's gonna work hard out of possession. I think he's gonna press. He'll get the occasional yellow card for dissent or flying in on someone late. But I think this is a guy that he's gonna be a focal point in the attack as a recognized 9. Whereas some of these other guys, are probably just gonna try and play through the width. So I think it's actually a result, especially in this Spain team, of not having a whole lot to choose from when it comes to center forwards. And I think he's going to do the unselfish work of holding up the ball, drawing a lot of fouls, making sure they can restart quickly. And, I think provided with the service of guys like Ferran Torres and co that can beat guys 1v1 and get service into the box, I think hopefully there'll be enough chances that he can get a few goals. This guy is not someone that's going to create a whole lot for himself. It's usually he needs players around him to provide that service. But he'll definitely be someone that does a lot of work kind of in the shadows and picking up a lot of, crucial plays that might not always result in goals, but I think will allow Spain to have a prolonged period in the tournament if all goes well for them.
I agree. He's heading in this tournament number 1 at the 9. But right behind him is Gerard Moreno. Not sure if you guys are familiar with him. had 35 plus goals for Villarreal this season. It'd be interesting to see if he gets a run up top. But we expect Spain to dominate the ball possession in this group.
Hey, Chad, real quick. So I was just thinking about this because we were talking about Spain. I don't know if you remember last week, Chad and I watched a replay of Portugal's U21 Euro game against were they playing? Spain. They're playing Spain, actually. And Spain's U21 team was really good as well. So was Portugal's. But for some reason, I was just talking like nonsense. But one of the things I was saying was like, I feel like national teams will go in flows. And like the flow is just did those development years was the infrastructure in that country like set up so that they could have like a golden, not really a golden generation, but you know what I mean? So like the years like to create that 2008, 2010, 2012 run with Spain, it's like everything was set up perfectly. And I feel like there was like some years after that where people still expected Spain to be literally number 1 or number 2 in the world. And it was like, they weren't that. And I think some people still think of Spain as like, why isn't this team better? Why aren't they number 1 in the world again? It's like, look at this team. They're all really good players, but like, they're not that. So I feel like they had their run and now they're back down to being 8 to 12 in the world with an occasional like 5 or 6. Does that make sense? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. When the team has their run like that, if you look at the team when Spain won 3 major tournaments in a row, those players all grew up basically playing together, playing at the same club.
It's just to me, it's like, did the youth set up there just everything clicked at once? You get a little bit of luck, a lot of like preparation just for that one window.
Well, it has to click. If you win 2 Euros and a World Cup, then everything just has to click. You know?
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was.
So, not the tiki-taka that we know, but Alejandro Moreno from ESPN said it best. They play tiki, but without the taka now.
All right. I kind of, dude, Alejandro Moreno is annoying, man. So I don't know about that one.
That's what he said. Then we also got Poland, coached by Paulo Sousa. Notable players, you guys probably know him, Szczesny, Glick, and I think this dude's name's also Glick, the guy from Leeds, the left-footed player, Krakowiak, and obviously Lewandowski. Lewandowski coming off, I'd say, his best season, breaking the Bundesliga record for most goals ever in a season.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at this Poland team, does he have the players around him to provide him the service like he does at Bayern Munich? Like, he's not going in this tournament. I don't think he is really close to being the top goal scorer because his team won't go far, but he also doesn't have the pieces around him providing the service. He's not the flashy type of player to be able to create his own opportunities, even though once he gets the opportunities, he will take them. Now moving on to Sweden. Both Sweden and Poland are plus 600 to get out to win the group. But Sweden, some notable players are Lindelof, Forsberg, Isak, and a player that I really like, Mike, let me know if you like him too, is Kulusevski from Juventus.
He's Swedish? I would have had no idea.
I forget who he played for the previous year, but I thought he still had a good season with Juventus. Now, storyline going into this is no Zlatan. Zlatan came out of retirement to play in these Euros, but gets hurt this season and is out for the Euros. But I think this is the opportunity for Sweden to move on from Zlatan and maybe bring in some young players like Isak from Real Sociedad, who apparently is a bright spot in the Swedish team. So it'd be interesting to see how Sweden are. I think Sweden and Poland are very similar. Like I said, like those teams that just really work hard. Like Sweden, was it last Euros they made it to the quarterfinals? Or was it the World Cup?
I don't remember. The World Cup, they made it to the quarterfinals, yeah.
That's it. Okay. So, they got it. Like, they know what it takes to get to the quarterfinals, so I wouldn't be surprised if they can string together a few wins to make it there again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chad. I think look for Kulusevski to be one of those players that could be like a young player of the tournament. This is a guy that in his last season at Parma before coming to Juventus was Serie A Young Player of the Year. He's a guy that can run. He can run at the outside back both with and without the ball. And I think when Sweden's looking for kind of one of those outlets when they're transitioning from defense to attack, he's definitely going to be someone they're going to be looking to get the ball to either into his feet or into space in behind to exploit. So I love that you brought him up, and I think he'll definitely be one for us to watch and to certainly write down about younger players making their mark on the tournament.
Definitely. He could be the player that they look for on the counter. He's coming from Juventus. Maybe he's the guy that they want to try and find when at Juventus it's Ronaldo, etc. And then the last team in this group who I expect to come in last is Slovakia. Their coach is Stefan Tarkovic. I don't expect you guys to know him, but just mention him there. Notable players is Dubravka, Hamšík, who's still playing, 34 years old.
Oh, gosh.
Legend. Has to be a legend in Slovakia. And then Milan Skriniar. He's at Inter Milan, am I correct?
Correct.
And I've read some articles and some other storylines about this is that they don't have a significant number 9. And the number 9 going in this tournament is a player named Michel Doris. And he hasn't scored for the national team since 2016. So this team's unsure where their goals are going to come from. That might mean more production from the midfield, including Hamšík and whoever else they play there. So with the lack of a number 9 could hurt them, especially in this group.
Cool. So what's your final prediction for Group B? We're going with it.
I say Spain finishes first. Poland in second because of Lewandowski.
Wow.
Sweden and then Slovakia.
So are we thinking that, in like people might say, oh, Lewandowski scores so many goals, maybe he'll score golden boot of the tournament, but I don't think Poland goes far enough to give him that opportunity.
Exactly. He might get 2 or 3 in the group stage, maybe. But if they finish runner up in this group, then they'll probably face a tough team in the next round, which
cool.
They'll be able to stop them from scoring.
Cool. Chad, we got about 10 minutes left, so
all right, I'll run through the group of death for
minutes.
You guys.
Yep.
So we got France, Portugal, Germany, and Hungary. You got France for the last World Cup winners. You got Portugal, the last Euro winners, and then Germany, the 2014 World Cup winners. Beginning with France, who are plus 115 to get to win the group and plus 500 to win the whole tournament. Coached by Didier Deschamps. Expect them to play a very similar team to what they did in the World Cup. So this team has a lot of experience, knows what it takes. Maybe take out Umtiti, and he's not playing anymore. So Kimpembe will probably slot in there, center back. And then Conte, Pogba, and either Rabiot or Tolisso will play as the other center mid. But Benzema picked up a knock in their last friendly. So that might mean, which sucks for me because I picked him for in my fantasy team.
Giroud.
It's awesome for you, Andrew, because you got Giroud. And fun fact for you, he is 6 goals away from breaking Thierry Henry's France goal record. So maybe he'll actually score a goal this tournament, unlike the World Cup.
If you told me, hey, we'll win a World Cup, but the forward's not going to score goals, I don't think anybody would care. Get all the dirty work, doesn't matter.
And obviously you got Griezmann and Mbappe, and that speaks for itself.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people say they think Griezmann will win either player of the tournament or golden boot. I mean, I don't know who will take the penalties, who will take the free kicks, but like Griezmann seems like a guy, I think he dominated last Euros as well, that just like balls out for his country. Like,
yeah, Griezmann for France is so good. And France is not by far, but very much so the deepest team in the whole tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen their whole second squad that they could have put out there, and it would beat most teams in this whole tournament. But now I'm moving on to Portugal, coached by Fernando Santos, plus 350 to win the group, and then plus 900 to win the whole tournament. Obviously, you got the likes of Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Rafael Guerrero, João Cancelo. They expect that Fonte and Ruben Diaz to be the starting center backs, but I would like to see Pepe in there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Pepe was so good for Porto earlier in the Champions League this season.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, where will João Felix fit in this team?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you have Ronaldo in this team, when they're on the attack, I was watching their game against Spain, and Spain would dominate the ball. So when they would try and counter, Ronaldo would be the player that they looked for instead of trying to build another way. I feel like this team's so revolved around Ronaldo still.
Yeah. Dude, I almost it's weird. I almost would get more excited about this Portugal team if Ronaldo wasn't there. Not because he's not good or whatever. It's just like, I just know what he is, you know?
Yeah, I know.
No diss on Ronaldo. I'm not an anti-Ronaldo guy. It's just like, come on, dude. Like, he's just kind of annoying.
I mean, he won't do the work on defense. He'll just sit up there as the number 9. I mean, he'll get goals and create chances, of course. But a player that I'm really excited to see is Ronaldo Sanchez.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is going to be really good if he gets into that lineup. The way he can drive with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously they're the reigning Euro champ.
Last Euros, Ronaldo Sanchez was his breakout party, and then he kind of flopped a little bit at Bayern, and now he's back on the come up.
Maybe he breaks out again.
Mm-hmm.
And then Germany, Joachim Löw's last go with this team, plus 135 to win the group, plus 700 to win the tournament. Unsure what formation they're going to play, but expect Kimmich to be in there somewhere, Gundogan somewhere. Forget the other center mid option they had. Oh, Toni Kroos, and then Goretzka. So they have 4 quality center mids.
Yeah,
it's be interesting how they see it work. But Kimmich in a friendly, I think it was yesterday or the day before, was playing right wing back. So that should be interesting.
Wow.
And they have players who won the Champions League this year in Havertz, Werner, Rudiger.
Yeah, Rudiger.
In a team like this, you want to see how all their attacking options play, can play out when they're trying to play and build out. Yeah, like I said, it's the last tournament with Jogi Löw. So, anything on Germany or those 3 giants of the group?
I think the one thing that's going to be really interesting with this France team is we're also talking about a team that for several years now, it's guys that have kind of stuttered in their club careers, like even Paul Pogba, Antoine Griezmann having a lackluster career this year or season for Barcelona rather. Guys like Kimpembe and Kurt Zouma not really solidifying their places, on the European stage as center backs. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they come together and go ahead and dominate another tournament, because this would be the strangest group of players not thriving in the club scene, but doing it on the international stage. So if they go ahead and they win another major tournament, it's going to be quite the opposite to that Spain golden generation we talked about, where a lot of those players were thriving both for club and country, where it seems like for a lot of these guys for the France national team, it's really just for country.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like Andrew said before too, that Griezmann just always seems to show out for his country. It seems like a lot of players for France do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw in the World Cup, all players played their role, and they won the whole thing.
Yep.
And then heading into, expect the last place team in this group, but they're still a decent side. Hungary, coached by Marco Rossi. They've had some great players in the past, way before now, obviously. The key players are Willy Orban, And a notable player is the new player for the Union, Gazdag.
Mm-hmm. Do you actually get minutes?
He's expected to start in the center of the park.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see him play against all these great teams. But the storyline going into this is no Dominic Szoboszlai. He's the player from Leipzig who made the move to player from Salzburg who made the move to Leipzig. He eventually made the move and opened up space for Aronson to be able to play. But he would be the best player for Hungary in this tournament. Young player, but without him, they don't really have a whole lot of attacking options. But expect them to obviously figure something out. How do they play against all three of these teams? Imagine having to play France, then Portugal, then Germany. It's going to be tough for Hungary, but I think they pick up at least 1 point.
I don't know about that. All right, so we got to go really quick. Who's the winner, second place, third place in this group?
Winner's France. Second place is Germany, which most people might not agree. Third is Portugal.
Okay.
And then fourth is Hungary.
I could kind of see a scenario where France finishes third. I mean, I think they get lucky. They play Hungary first. So I think they pick, but that's a game in a regular tournament setting, right? You see it in World Cups and whatever, where, maybe they sneak out with maybe they tie or they pick up a couple yellows or something like that. It doesn't go as planned. And, and then they have two tough games where it's really hard instead of getting the hard one out of the way first.
Yeah, that could happen for anyone though, too.
All right. So really quick before we go, let's get a final prediction. So what's the two teams in the final and the winner and then top goal scorer. And then we got to go.
I don't know how the bracket works.
So it's A, B, and C are all on one side. And then the second place from all of those will go to the other side. The other side is D, E, and F.
All right.
If that makes sense.
Okay. So, I'll just give you my winner.
All right. Who's your winner?
I think France wins. I think.
Wow. Uh-oh.
I'm just one of my winner. I think France wins their second major tournament in a row.
Okay. So this is their golden generation. I could see that as well. It's weird because if they weren't in this group, this scenario where it's so easy for them to possibly drop points and finish second, they'll be on the other side. But I do think this group being at the bottom, even the second place team, they'll go to the other side and at the bottom of that bracket. So I don't know who I think is the winner. I do really think Italy makes the final.
Wow.
I'm going to say Italy wins the entire tournament.
Oh, I think
that. This is a group that is not talked about enough. This is the perfect combination within the entire tournament of both finesse and absolutes when it comes to the art of defending. And you know what? I think Jose Mourinho's got something to say about this team going far. So look out for them. I'm predicting an Italy-France final. With Italy going ahead and conceding very, very few goals and scoring just enough to get them over the line. And that's what, tournament soccer is all about.
I like that. That's what, that would be very similar to my prediction if it's just the margin for error for France to stay on that side of the bracket is you got to win that group,
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that we can, at least from my perspective, I think the winner of Group A will play the winner of Group F in the final.
That's the way I'm thinking too, because I don't think Spain is that strong. England is really strong. It's just hard for me to see them gelling that quickly. I don't think Belgium is that good. I just, unless that front four is just absolutely on fire, I don't think they're that good.
They're going to have to outscore every team.
I think if Portugal somehow got through and was on the other side of the bracket, I'd say Italy, Portugal, but I'm going to go Italy and France as well. I guess I'll go France as the winner over Italy. But I think me putting Italy in the final is still like a testament to how good I think that team could be.
Who's your guys' top scorer?
Top scorer. I
would go with a player that
think I'm going to go with Harry Kane, honestly.
Yeah, a player that you expect to make it far, takes penalties.
I'm going to take Harry Kane as well, both from penalties and set pieces and the run and play. I think he's got to be it.
I think Romelu Lukaku.
True, yeah. See, he'd be like such an easy pick if you were to take all of the penalties. I think a lot of the French guys are just going to take away from each other. Maybe somebody from Germany, maybe Werner catches fire and he gets a lot of goals. Immobile is good, but yeah. So I think we're pretty much in agreement that France, if they play their game, they get through the group, they'll be good going through. Italy's going to be a strong team, and then we all think Harry Kane will probably score the most goals. I mean, from the run of play, he'll take some free kicks, he'll take all the penalties. So that's good stuff. All right, guys, I got to get going. I got to coach the next generation of young soccer stars.
Thank you for coaching the next generation of.
Thanks, guys. Be well.
Maybe we'll get on for the knockout rounds and kind of recap and see what's going on, but I got to get going. Thanks, guys. See you.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Peace.